Okay, so the next set of fallacies will be grouped together, and they'll be grouped under the heading of causal fallacies. And the book goes over three, but we're just gonna go over two, mainly to keep things focused. You guys have a lot of fallacies you're learning. I'd rather you guys learn well the two rather than get mixed up with the three. Okay. So causal fallacies are about causality. Causality is just about one thing causing another thing. So pretty straightforward. And in this video, before we actually get to the fallacies, we're just going to talk about why we care about causality in the first place. So the question is, why do we care about causality? Okay. And I'm going to give three general reasons. So number one is we care about blaming or praising people. Okay. So how does blame and praise, what does that have to do with causality? Well, whenever something bad happens, we want to know who to blame. And the way to figure out who to blame is to figure out who caused the bad thing to happen. And that applies to praise too. Something good happens, and then we want to find out who caused the thing so that we can praise them or thank them. Okay, so about the blaming, an example is, let's say a bridge collapses, a major bridge. A lot of people die. It's very sad. Okay. Um, okay. Immediately we're gonna know, like, are the engineers to blame? Are the architects to blame? Who's to blame? Okay. Uh, we want to know what caused the bridge to collapse, because then we can know to blame the people, right? If they did, or maybe there's nobody to blame, and then it's just like really bad weather or something, nobody's fault. Um, yeah, this is same for COVID. People wonder now, like, as far as I know, it's the I don't know the current evidence on this, but people really want to know, like, was COVID caused by humans in a lab in Wuhan, or 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 was it something that just like naturally occurred? That's something we're very curious about because we care about blaming people, right? And being able to bring like proper blame or shame to the relevant people, and we care about that, uh, and that's just how we are. Um, so yeah, and then praise, like we want to know like who are the people that were the main people responsible for developing the vaccine. Which administration, Trump or Biden, was most, I mean, most like relevant to this. Like we want to know who we can thank or praise, and then yeah. Okay, so I think that's pretty straightforward. Let's go to two. Um, it helps us control our environment. Environment. Okay. Um. So by environment, we just like anything around us, and even the things that affect us directly. So let's say A events. So a certain type of event causes B events. Okay. Once we learn that the A events cause the B events, then that will immediately help us to control our environment and what's going on around us. So, um, and if the B events are bad, and we know that A events cause B events, then we'll avoid A events. For example, let's say if you're feeling sluggish and you're not feeling very productive, and then you realize it's because you've been eating unhealthy foods like um, I don't know, oily, salty burger fries, type foods. And you see that it causes you to feel sluggish and not really great. Um, well, then that helps you control your environment. You can know, okay, I'm not going to eat these sorts of foods because they bring about this result. Or the flip side, let's say you're feeling really good and energetic and peppy, and you know that's actually caused by a good diet, good exercise, good sleep. Okay, so knowing what causes what helps you control your environment and how you're going to act in your environment. Um, yeah, so pretty straightforward. This is true for COVID transmission. Like, what causes someone to get COVID, or what causes COVID to transmit from one person to another? We were really concerned. Is it through surfaces, or is it just airborne? And now we know it's primarily not through surfaces. A lot of the hype on like over sanitization was, a hype. And that's because we know what actually causes transmission. It's going to be airborne. And again, that's an example of us being able to control our environments better by knowing what causes what's, and then in turn, being able to protect our health. Okay, let's go to number 3, which is um, we are just curious and desire closure. And this can be sometimes even when these things aren't relevant. Someone passes away and it's like too late to help them. So maybe controlling environment is not relevant, and you're not concerned about blaming or praising anyone, but we still want to know, like, how did they pass away? How did it happen? It might be our way of desiring closure to know how it happened. Um, or like, let's say you're reading a book and you get toward the end and you just don't know what happened, right? In this case, it's not even about real life, but we still really know, like, okay, but who was the actual murderer, or who was the actual thief, or like we really care about uh, um, um, what actually caused certain events in the story to help it happen, because we're just curious and desire closure. um, Oftentimes they're still connected to these, but even independent of that, we just care. We're just interested and curious human beings. Okay, with that, yeah, so that's our introduction to the causal fallacies. Why do we care about causality?